Hello everybody, it's me, BlackStarChanX3, aka Marshall. So instead of a fabulous, amazing script that I can't read for the life of me, I'm just gonna be talking that I can't do for the life of me either. I have a bunch of bullet points about stuff I wrote while I was reading Beastars, because that was what won the poll that I made, because I made another poll. Oh boy. Beastars is a 2016 manga made by Paro Itagaki. And I got into this one just because, I wanted to get into furry manga and shit at the time, and it was either this or, what is the one about the raging red panda? I don't know, that one looks really cringe. So I got into Beastars instead because this one looked a bit more, actually mature, because, I don't want to diss something I haven't watched at all, but, the other one just looks really, really cringe. The angry face mode and the karaoke shit, I'm just like, that looks like the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it does not appeal to me, and it didn't appeal to me 5 years ago. Because I've been following Beastars for a really long time. It was literally, I think, one of the first manga I ever, collected as it was coming out. And now, Chainsaw Man has kind of taken up that helm, but I'm kind of dropping off with Chainsaw Man as the Aakash arc is here. Chainsaw Man and School arc, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But, this isn't about that. This is about Beastars. So since it was, the first manga that I was, continuously keeping up with, I've been keeping up with it for a really long time. I want to say, at least oh my god, it must have been halfway through the series, I want to say. So for the start of this manga, we started off with this herbivore named Tem getting chased down by a silhouetted carnivore. We don't know their species or their name or anything about them, because this is a low-key murder mystery. And Tem, I'm so glad he gets a glow-up later, because oh my goodness. It's fitting we're introduced to dogs in the first chapter, because the art style is rough for a while. That's such a stupid joke. Why did I write that? So, in actual terms of, Tem's murder, it's really impactful, and I think I just cracked my toes, sorry. His murder's impactful, and, the vibes are just so there. This is such a banger way to start a manga, and I've always thought so. When I picked this up, and the first thing that happened was oh yeah, someone got murdered, I was oh my god, this is, hardcore. I don't know if that was my exact thoughts, but I was oh my god, we're doing something, we're going, oh my goodness. It's such, it starts with such a bang compared to, other manga, where it kind of, takes a bit to rise up. I think, Attack on Titan also starts with, a banger of, oh, it's the Colossal Titan, go boom. Death Note takes a bit to pick up. A lot of kids manga also takes, a slow, steady climb. So, we're not, introduced right off the bat with, here's some crazy shit, you know? But yeah, Tem's murder serves to show a lot of things about the world building, how herbivores are scared to shit that they're gonna get eaten at literally any moment. How carnivores are kind of seen as, these powerful raw machines of destruction by a lot of, herbivores, and, so, Legoshi's intro is really good, because, the silhouette in the murder makes you think it could be Legoshi. Spoilers, it's not, but, you're totally, on edge of, oh no, it takes a while for you to actually meet our, our quote hero of the story. It takes, page 21 before we actually see our MC, Legoshi, and it's and then we get to learn a little bit about him bit by bit. The entire first chapter is about how, other people perceive him, specifically this, she's either an alpaca or a sheep, I'm sorry. Her name's Else, and, Tem, the murder guy, he is also an alpaca, and he had a crush on her. And Legoshi, he's so intimidating and scary, and he, the shots and the angles and all the scenes to show off how big and intimidating Legoshi is are so good. But, the point is to, oh yeah, everyone's so scared of him, but it's actually, he just wanted to deliver a love letter that, Tem wrote to Else, ages ago and never built up the courage to give her, and it's oh, he's a big sweetheart, but he's so scary because he's a big old wolf boy. They really get you in the misleading character department, oh, it's a misdirection. Oh no, it's a big scary wolf, and then boom, he's just a big soft boy. Love that. It's then leading into like the club room scenes where like, oh, like, cause the whole build up for chapter 1 is like how spooky Legoshi is. So like, he reads it, you could either read this as he's very antisocial or like he's purposely threatening. Like when he cracks the walnuts for the chipmunk girl. Like, upon rereading these moments, you can tell it's, oh, he's just really antisocial and being like a goober because he has no sense of like what's normal and how to act. Because he's like trying his best to just be like not threatening and normal, but he just comes off as threatening anyway. It's like, oh no, because he's just naturally this big, scary looking guy, but like he's nice, and oh no, we've mischaracterized you. And even Else is like, I was so wrong about you, and now I feel bad because she was like shit talking him in the girls' locker room. Like, he was so scary. Oh goodness. But it's like, because he like asks Else, like, are you sad Tim died? Like, he singles her out, and she's like, what do you mean? Why'd you single me out? Is it because I'm also a sheep? I think she's an alpaca. I don't know what she is. I need to reread. I didn't make notes on what she was. So like, it's like, oh no, he just cared about Tim's feelings, and like, he cares about herbivores. So yeah, chapter 1 is really freaking good. It's such a good intro to this world. Like it's such, it's so good. It's so good. And like, we get to see, oh my god, like I mentioned it, but like the angles and the freaking, the camera angles and the paneling, like it really shows just how huge this is. Like, especially compared to the tiniest herbivores like Else. Like, oh, and the intense expressions, they're so good. They're so good. Because they're like so like detailed, and like the art style's rough for the first chapter, or for the first manga, like, but like there's so much emotion, and like because like, oh my god, the faces, I'm gonna have to like put some pictures up of what they look like in these panels, but it's like nuts. Like, they're so emotional and emotive and great, and the backgrounds really set the scenery. Like, after Else and Legoshi talk, and they're like, there's just like these flower petals falling everywhere, and the moon is full, and we just like get this somber, sweet moment between the two where they like actually connected over something, because like Legoshi cared about Tem, and she understands how like important that is, and it's just so like sweet, and she's like, oh, I can change, like, I could say everyone that you're actually not a bad guy, and he's like, oh, it doesn't matter, everyone thinks of me that way anyway. And it's like, oh, that's sad. But like, it's such a somber scene, but it's also very like, I don't know, beautiful. So something else that I really like is like how slow the pace is, kind of. So like, we really, like, you can't really tell where the series is like trying to go at the moment. Like, me knowing where it ends up going, I'm like, even when I was reading it, I was like, where the actual hell are we going with this story? Because like, you could take it anywhere, but like, the scope is so small right now because it's all within the Cherryton Academy, and it's all like very interpersonal relationship kind of problems, which we'll get into further. But like, later we expand to like the whole world of Beastars / like their town specifically. But like, as of right now, it's very self-contained, and we're like, oh, we're very just in the school right now. But like, the pacing's really nice because we get to meet all these side characters and like see how they feel, and like, I know I have some notes on that later, so like we can get more into that later. So something I put here was Louis' intro is perfect. I just like this sassy deer man. He's amazing. I love him. He's such a jerk. But unlike, oh, I forget his name. Is his name Tokoyami? Trust Fund Baby from Danganronpa. Oh my god, I hate that guy. Louis actually has like a purpose for how mean and rude he is. Like, oh my god, I hate Trust Fund Boy from Danganronpa, but like, Louis is just like him if he actually had any semblance of an actual character. If there was reasoning behind anything he did, if there was like a point, if there was character, if he wasn't a slab of paper with a face printed on it. Because Louis is like one of my favorite characters in Beastars. I think I like Legoshi and Louis the best, but like, oh my god, freaking, they work so well off of each other too. So like, the scene where Louis, Legoshi, and Kai, they're all talking, like, this is such like a fun scene, and like the we get, like, such a center stage on, like, the background guys. Like, everyone in the drama club kind of feels important in their own way, and, like, we even see them, like, they're continuously, like, an existing entity throughout, like, the whole series, basically, which, like, is so fun because it's, like, in a lot of manga, they'll just, like, forget people and stuff, but, like, I remember there's, like, plenty of fun scenes that we get with the rest of the drama club, like, throughout the series, and I'm glad they don't just, like, drop them like a potato after, like, we leave the school. But, like, you know, it's nice to have, like, oh yeah, this is Kai, here's his backstory, and we don't feel gypped, like, oh, why are you telling us this? It kind of just feels like, oh yeah, we're getting to know everybody in this school, because, like, oh, like, it fits back into the themes of, like, how everyone is a person in this story. Like, the carnivores are people, and, like, the herbivores are also people, and they're, like, all on the same level of, like, cognition, and it kind of shows that, like, oh yeah, they're all, like, people by, like, having everyone be important and not just focusing on, like, 3 main characters. Like, everyone in the story feels, like, equally important in a way. Like, obviously, Legoshi's our MC, but, like, everyone feels, like, really important to, like, add to the world building and the everything. Oh, and, like, Legoshi blocking the hit from Kai to protect Louis is so, like, yeah. I will say, like, freaking everything about Louis is so homoerotic. Like, I got into this series because I saw clips of, like, the anime circulating where he f***ing, like, grabs him, and I was like, this is the gayest thing. What the fuck? And I look into it, and I'm like, what is this? I was like, there's not a gay, there was, like, these scenes when they're talking in the, like, the office of the club room. I don't know where this is, but, like, they're having this conversation, and there's so many funny edits of, like, oh, they're so funny, where it's, like, he shoves him against the wall, and he's like, you should bare your fangs at me. Oh, how could you look at me like I'm a weak little deer? Oh my god, Louis, what are you doing? And the voice actors sell that shit so hard. It's like, damn, y'all put your all into that scene. And oh god, it's so funny. But I was like, this is just the most homoerotic thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's up there next to obligatory Four Swords reference, but it's up there next to the whole forest scene in Four Swords where it's like, that's the gayest thing I've seen in a non-BL.
If this is the end of me, I'd like to have you there keeping watch.
Oh, jeez. Freaking Louis and Legoshi kind of have more chemistry than Haru and Legoshi. I'm sorry. No, like the tail grab and the tie grab. I'm like, what was going through your mind, Paru? What was going through your mind? This one image of Legoshi on page 106 summarizes my entire life. Then, as we lead into, like, set up for this scene, Legoshi, and so because Tim died and he was in the drama club, they replaced him with this goat named, I think his name's Zoe, and they're like, we're gonna go practice your lines because you're fresh into this role and we need to be, like, ready in, like, a really short time span. So Louis like, come, don't clip that. He's like, come over, we're gonna go rehearse on stage in the one stage room, and we need you, big boy Legoshi, to stand as a guard dog. And he's like, woof. So while Zoe and Louis are in the drama stage room, Legoshi's like sit and watch, and the scene where he spots our little dwarf rabbit friend is so, like, well, like, done. I don't know how to describe exactly my feelings on it, because it's just really well done. Like, the vibes are so there. Like, he smells that she's there, and he's like, wait, I smell an herbivore. It's close by. I'm probably alone. Wait, I need to focus my senses. Small, body size, and herbivore. About 30 feet away from me. And then we get, like, this shadowy, image, and he, like, whips back around and hides behind a pillar, and he's like, oh shit, this is bad. Can't see too well through the thick myself. I can't see too well through this. I can't read. I can't see too well through this thick mist myself. Has it detected my presence too? And they stare at each other, and this fucking... I love Legoshi when he's, like, low poly Legoshi. I don't know how else to describe it, but just when, like, he's just drawn in this goofy way. If I chase you, will you flee? And then he, like, gets ready. If I make the first move. And then, bam! They start booking it, because they're like, oh no, he's gonna get me. And that causes him to, like, book after them. And boom, they tackle him to the floor, and he's like... a very small rabbit and his own instincts. But like, oh my god. And then like when we flip back over to the next chapter, because there's like a chapter break, we cut to like the rabbit's POV, and she's named Haru, and she's like reflecting on her life and how like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. And then we get her backstory, which I think I wrote some stuff about her backstory here. Okay, so her name's Haru. She's a dwarf rabbit. I like her a lot, actually, and I'm really sad how often the story tends to, like, forget about her. There was, like, stretches of periods where I'm like, Haru hasn't been in the story for a while, when I was, like, continuously getting these books. Obligatory squeak. So, like, so basically her character is that, like, again? Oh my god. So, like, her character is that she's a strong-headed woman, and that she sleeps around. And, like, the other girls in the academy are really mean to her, because she's just, like, she just owns that that's what she does. And men like her because she's, like, the small, cute little rabbit, and they think, oh, I need to protect her, and, like, then when they realize that she's not how they wanted her to be, they end up, like, leaving her, and she's like, So, like, that's her character. And so we end up with two characters who are, like, very similar in the sense that they're both outcasts. Like, the way they are outcasts are very different, but, like, they both are outcasts. Haru because she's, like, promiscuous, and Legoshi because his mere existence as a wolf, like, scares everyone and makes everyone, like, not want to be around him. But, like, the entire scene where Legoshi, like, struggles with his instincts and his thoughts, and, like, it's all just a big storm, and he's like... oh, I don't want to eat her, and his instinct is like, eat her! Do it! Nom, 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 nom. Like, it's so raw and filled with, like, emotion and struggles and pain, and it's like, oh my god. And then, like, he's, like, got it, when he's about to, like, make the choice, he's like, oh, I'm gonna eat her. Zoe calls out and is like, no! Louis broke his fucking leg! For future reference, yeah, Louis, like, f***ed up his leg real bad, and it was because he saved Zoe from falling off the stage, and, like, Louis plays it off as, like, oh, I didn't do it because I just didn't want you to complain, but it's like, Louis, that's like a, like, he, you know, Zoe even says that he fell on top of Louis because of how Louis saved him, so it's like, Louis, that's, like, not a thing a douchebag would do, even if you just didn't want to hear him complain. Like, if Louis was, like, super mega ultra asshole, he would have just let, Zoe, like, fall on the ground and, like, hurt himself and been like, huh, that's what you deserve, that's what Togami would do. Togami. But he didn't do that. He saved Zoe from falling on his ass, and because of this, Louis has, like, a hurt leg throughout quite a bit of the, like, first arc. So something that bugs me about this scene, actually, is just how neither of them smell the blood that, Legoshi has on his hand, because he, like, dug his claws into Haru's arm, and because of that, he has, like, blood all over his fingers, and he just, like, wipes it off on his pants, and it's like, how did y'all not smell that? Because it's, like, a thing later where Legoshi smells rabbit blood, and it's, like, I think it's stated that he only knows what that smells like because he hurt Haru, but still, I'm like, they should have been able to smell that blood, because blood is a very potent smell, like, even with, like, just small cuts, you can, like, smell blood, and this dude's, like, whole, like, each finger is, like, doused in blood, and he just wipes it off on his pants. Oh, god. Yeah, that bothers me, but it's, like, such a minuscule thing that I think only people who, like, have had experience with, like, blood and shit would kind of know about. Like, oh, yeah, that you would not be able to get those stains out of your pants if you just wiped a bloody hand off on your pants. So, like, the next morning, Legoshi's, like, full of guilt over what he's done because he hurt a small animal, and it gives off, like, oh, I stepped on my dog's foot vibes. Like, he can't even, like, eat a piece of bread because he's like, oh, it was soft, just like that rabbit that I injured. Oh, like, he feels like the biggest monster, which, like, oh, let's be real, that's, like, such a, like, a, Like, it makes a lot of sense because his whole fear, like, for a lot of his life was being the scary wolf that everyone, like, kind of perceives him as. So, like, when two, they're part of the Candidate group, but I don't know, one of them's a fox and the other one's, like, another thing. But these two candidates, like, beefing, and Legoshi gets so triggered because he's reminded about what he did last night, and Louis just strolls up like, and everyone's like, oh my god, it's Louis, and he, like, breaks up the fight, because Legoshi was like, oh shit, because one of the people who was fighting wanted to throw hands with Legoshi, and Legoshi's like, no, but I'm a big wolf, and I'll have to throw the fight because I'm such a beefy man, and Louis is just like, everyone respects me. I don't know why I'm using my blue from the, my blue voice from, Pokemon Adventures manga, but, you know, whatever. And, like, they bring up the Beastar thing here, which, like, the term Beastar just seems to mean whatever the Paru wanted it to mean. I'm gonna have to censor myself so much. But, like, I don't think Paru knew what a Beastar was at this point, which is really funny because it's the name of the manga, but, like, it doesn't line up with what we know to be true about Beastars later, but that's a whatever thing. It's, like, a thing I can ignore because it's like, oh, I goof up in world building all the time, so. So, something fun is, like, when I was reading this, I was like, because it's something that they come back to all the time is, like, the Adler play, which is what the drama club's putting on right now. And I'm like, I so want, like, a manga about Adler. Like, it would be so metal. Like, the premise of it is cool and fun, and I, like, it connects so much to the, like, the world building, and its themes, and, like, the story at large in Beastars, but, like, I so want just, like, an adaptation of Adler somehow. Someone do that, because, like, the whole concept is so cool. Like, I don't know. It fits so well into the story, but, like, I so want just Adler as a thing. Like, we only get glimpses of the play in the manga and the anime, but I'm like, I want more Adler. It seems really cool. So, I love this one frame where Louis is sticking his furry behind out and saying, now attack me with all you got. But he's, like, really struggling with his leg injury, and it, like, he like shoves it down, and it shows, like, what kind of person Louis is, and I really like it, because, like, he's just utterly struggling right now, and he's just, like, stuffing it down, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna let anyone think that I'm weak, because he's already, like, an herbivore, and people look down on him because of that, and he's a deer, so he's like, I gotta be this mega ultra chad, and I have to be respectable and great, which, like, loops back into, like, his family life, but that'll be a thing later in the manga. So, like, there's this scene where he's, like, struggling with his foot, and then he just gets right back up, and I'm like, oh my god. I especially remember that scene so well in the anime, because he's, like, limping, and then he walks straight, like, perfectly, like, normal, like, you couldn't tell something's wrong with him, and I'm like, oh my god, you're such, dude's a good actor, I see why he's the lead. So, the final part where Legoshi, meets face-to-face with Haru, because the gardening club, they need roses for their Adler play, and he's like, they meet face to face in the gardening club, and they like have this moment. Like, everything about this moment is, like, so good. Like, the paneling, the way his internal monologue is, like, paced. Like, it's so good. I just love it. I love the paneling in general in this manga. Like, it's so good. Like, you don't really notice paneling unless it either serves really well or serves really poorly. And I think in Beastars, it's, like, one of those things where I'm like, I love it. It feels so, like, noticeable, but in the way of, like, it feels very, like, intentional. The cliffhanger. Like, so, something, I'm gonna monologue about this for a second, but, like, the cliffhangers in a lot of stories, especially manga, can feel so fake to me. Like, they're only there to get you to pick up the next volume, which, like, I understand, but, like, it paces the story stupid when you do that. Like, Webtoon has this problem where they need to, every fucking Webtoon needs to, like, have you gripped. So what they basically need to do is have a full, like, 3-act structure thing in one update, and then they need to cliffhang you, and that pacing and story building is so shit. Like, I'm sorry, I don't like that kind of story thing. It's too, like, fast-paced and doesn't care about the reader at all, and it feels so, like, I need instant dopamine shot straight into my veins. Like, that's how that kind of writing feels to me, and it's really, I don't like it. So, this, like, cliffhanger, this specific one, I don't remember all the Beastars ones, but, like, almost always I find myself wanting to come back to this story, and not in, like, I'm so frustrated because they didn't, like, care at all about the, so, like, it didn't feel like, oh, yeah, we're just, like, towing you along so that you'll buy the next one, and that's the only reason. Like, it feels very natural in the way of, like, we just met the rabbit! The rabbit! Like, it feels like a good pause of, like, it makes you think for a second before you grab the next one. Like, even if you didn't have, like, even if you had, like, all the volumes sitting next to you, which I do, it's like, oh, yeah, this gives you pause to, like, think for a second and reflect, like, oh no, what? Oh no! Like, instead of feeling like a really cheap, like, forceful stop in the brakes of the story, like, slamming the brakes, it feels more like a natural stop of, like, oh, we gotta reflect now and think about everything that we just, like, experienced, because, like, he's face to face with the animal that he hurt, like, a few chapters ago, and, like, now we know a bit more about Haru, and we're like, oh, she's in the gardening club, so, like, we just think about it, like, a bit more. It feels like such a natural bit of, like, reflection time, instead of, like, slamming the brakes and being like, we're just gonna stop it here because we ran out of print time and we gotta artificially make you read the next one, and well, I hate that kind of storytelling. It's like, stop a story, like, in my opinion, you should write, so, like, with manga, I think manga are way easier to, like, probably structure, because, like, you know how many pages there are, like, typically. I've never written a manga, but I've written webcomics, and to me, manga feels like it's way easier to structure your, like, full vibes out compared to, like, a webcomic, because a webcomic, there is no boundaries to when there's, like, a pause, unless you're doing, like, a hiatus. Like, there's no real, like, stop moment where you're like, this is where the audience needs to, like, wait or take a break for the next update. So what often ends up happening, like I said, is, like, people will, like, perpetually have moments of cliffhangers instead of just letting the story flow in a natural, progressing way. Because, like, the upper hand of webcomics is that you can do that. Like, you don't have necessarily chapters you need to follow. You don't have, like, perpetual looming, like, deadlines necessarily. At least I don't. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like the way people, like, have boxed themselves into, like, webtoons and, like, versus where manga tend to be, like, a lot more of a more satisfying story flow. Like, you think it would be the opposite, but it's really not. Oh, and I feel bad because I always end up, like, boinking on, like, webcomics, but, like, they're really bad. Like, I have yet to read one where I was just, like, utterly sucked into the world and, like, completely taken aback and my breath stolen with how, like, great it was. Like, I haven't found a single one I've felt like that way about. I think the only one that, like, oh, and I haven't read it all the way because I watched, like, people dub it in the past and I need to, like, read it. It's just such a long one. But the only one I think I can actually talk, like, genuinely, like, praise is, like, Hand Plates. And I forget who made it. I'll probably have to, like, put a thing on screen. But, like, Hand Plates was the only one that felt, it's an undertale at you. It's the only one that felt, like, really, like, this is the idea I had. I'm gonna lay it all down on the table, and it's gonna be one story, and you're just, like, you know, like, everything that I read from it, it's just so long to read is my only issue, and I'm like, oh. my brain gets so, like, antsy when I'm like, oh dear, I have a long story I need to read now, and I'm gonna be like, the jitters. But, like, in terms of, like, its actual pacing and stuff, like, it actually feels, like, really good. And, like, the setup and the payoff from what I've seen of it, and what I know to happen later in the story, I'm like, this was planned, and this was articulated. This wasn't just made to be, like, an artificial view machine. Like, that's, like, it was made with care, and I think that's what, like, just sets apart a lot of, like, webtoons from, like, this specific story. Because, like, I want to talk good about at least one webcomic, and this is the one that I've actually, like, enjoyed a lot, was Hand Plates. Where, like, I just wish people paced things well. And, like, Beastars made me really, like, think about that while reading it this time around. Because I was like, the pacing is so chill. Like, we don't meet Haru until, like, Legoshi freaking tackles her, and then we get her backstory. And it feels, like, nice Because it's like, oh yeah. And then like how the characters are handled feels just so different. Like, that was something that stood out to me in Kakegurui as well, which I only read the first volume of the manga for, and I watched like an entire season of it. I was like, they handle characters so weirdly. Like, characters who you think would be like your full-blown enemy are like not your enemy forever in that manga. And I was just like, that's so odd. And like with here in Beastars, like Legoshi like messes up majorly by hurting Haru, but like he's not seen as like a bad guy for that. And it like it makes you wonder, because like it's kind of led up to in the way of like, well, what if Legoshi, if our MC Legoshi could hurt a herbivore and like he instantly regrets it, what is the guy who murdered Tem thinking right now? Like, it makes you kind of lead into that process of thought, like, wait, what's with the murderer guy? Like, are they just a mindless beast of a monster? Because like the framing in that scene does make you feel like, oh yeah, this person is like a horrible, scary horror movie monster. But like we know that like someone as nice and sweet as Legoshi can hurt like herbivores even without like wanting to. So it's like, what motivation, characterization, oh my god. And then like they humanize the entire drama club instead of just treating them all like evil demons or like as background people that don't matter. But yeah, those are my praises for Beastars. I need to finish hand plates. That's my takeaway from Beastars. I need to finish hand plates. No, but for real, I had a lot to say about Beastars actually. So I guess like, comment, and subscribe. Specifically, if you made it this far, tell me what you think about Beastars, but also tell me if you have any webtoon recommendations or like webcomic recommendations that aren't garbage, that actually feel like well plotted out and don't have that spastic pacing that I'm talking about. Like, if you have any actual recommendations, I might give them a watch, and maybe I'll just read terrible ones for the channel. We'll see where this goes. But for now, I'll see you guys later. Those are my thoughts about Beastars. Bye bye.